Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm playing Drawback Chess, where each player gets a random drawback, like Lame Duck, where you can't move your king, or True Gentleman, where you can never capture a queen. My goal is to win 5 games. Let's get started with game number 1. Alright, game number 1, we get the white pieces. Let's just play d4 because why not? Our drawback is pawn battle. Lose if you have, maybe we shouldn't be throwing pawns forward. Okay, lose if you have fewer pawns than your opponent shouldn't be all that bad because I'm generally not giving away pawns willy-nilly in the first place, but I don't know if that means that if our opponent takes one of our pawns first, we instantly lose because for that split half move, we have 7 pawns and our opponent would have all 8 pawns. I would assume that's too drastic and not how this rule is going to work, but I might try not to go down that route just to play it safe. We get e6, let's play e3. Bishop d6, I always drop the bishop back. Classic boring London. Okay, bishop takes, I'll take back. And I'm also going to be trying to get some more symptoms from my opponent. So trying to sniff out more symptoms because we've unlocked a lot of different drawbacks. I'll try to put them on screen now. If I forget to do this, I'm so sorry. But we'll go ahead and put them on screen now, however many drawbacks we've unlocked. It's a whole lot of them, and one of you guys commented that it might be about 150 of them that there are to unlock in total. So I have no idea, and honestly, I'm not going to count how many I've unlocked so far, but I'd be willing to bet that I'm starting to get to the point where maybe I can start to sniff them out as they come. We get knight to d7, I'll play c3. I'm just looking for a simple idea here like queen c2 taking on h7. I mean, it's important to remember that, checkmate still exists, or rather capturing the king after checkmate still exists in this variant. So you don't necessarily have to win by your drawback, although unfortunately it's definitely the most common result. Oh, it's time. Bishop b7 means we can take. If our opponent takes with the knight, I take back with the queen. No way to save the king, and we should win that game. Okay, we get king to h8. Okay, let's play g4, and in the perfect world, I get g5. The knight moves away. Oh, and I was going to say bishop here, king takes, queen h7 check, but our opponent gives it to us right away, so we take. There's no way to save the king, although this is already technically checkmate. This whole variant, this whole website, Drawback Chess, you win when you actually capture the king, and that goes hand in hand with a lot of the drawbacks. All right, king takes. We'll go ahead and take back, and with that, we win game number 1. Let's go ahead and pop up the info board. All right, info board, you won, you took your opponent's king. Your drawback was, or rather your opponent's drawback was, quit horsing around. If you moved a knight on your last move, you can't move a knight. Yeah, I'd agree that that one's a pretty easy one. I mean, unless you happen to get into like a knight and pawn endgame, there aren't a lot of situations where you have to move your knights back to back to back. And nice, our drawback was about middle of the road, but we still managed to pull away with the victory. Let's go to move on to game number 2. All right, game number 2, again, we get the white pieces, another blind d4, and our drawback is stop stalling. Your pieces can't move laterally. Also, it looks like, it looks like we have a minute plus 2 seconds on the clock. Okay, your pieces can't move laterally. Obviously, apparently that doesn't apply for the bishop. Let's play h3 and boot our opponent's bishop. Get bishop back to h5. Let's play knight to f3, and I'm curious to see how this actually works. Let's see, I can move my knight everywhere. I guess it's just like my rooks and my queens, maybe my king as well, can't move side to side. Although that doesn't seem to be a terribly horrible hindrance, so I think we'll be okay here. I mean, if side to side included, diagonals and whatnot, it would be basically unplayable, but this seems okay. I guess this is the first time I think we've ever played Drawback Chess, and our biggest issue has been time, because we get a minute plus 2 seconds, so minute base time, 2 seconds back for every move that you make. Somehow we're ahead on our opponent, which is interesting because this is definitely the kind of time control that your opponent has to set up manually. Because otherwise you normally play like 3 minutes or 5 minutes. I think 5 minutes is the base time. I'm not totally sure. It's among the most common times. Okay, opponent's down to 30 seconds now. Opponent takes, we'll go ahead and take back. Hopefully our opponent has no idea what our drawback is. But to be fair, we don't know what theirs is either. Let's play g4. Let's play a little bit crazy. I don't know if I should be getting myself involved in attacks when I can't move my pieces laterally, but let's find out. Let's try knight to e5. That's generally a good move. In this case, hits pawn on c6. Nice, we'll go ahead and take back. Oh, can I not castle? That's right. I can't castle because I can't move laterally. Okay, well, there's the first time our drawback actually comes and bothers us. We're down to 40 seconds. Okay, let's just start pushing. I mean, our opponent's doing the same thing on the queen side, assuming that we're going to castle that way, but lucky for us, I guess we can't do that, even if we really wanted to. I'm probably going to have to end up moving king to f1 and then king to g2. It'll be probably the only way to connect my rooks and keep my king safe at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and get that process started now. I can't move laterally. What am I talking about? Okay, f4. And then king to f2. How's that? A little compromise. I can move to d2, so I can definitely move to f2. We are both down to about 30 seconds. Rook to b8 challenges the open file. I can't counter it because I'm can't move laterally. Let's try this. Maybe I can take and then get some sort of crazy mate. That would be a huge relief to get like check and then bishop here. Ooh, nice. Okay, we get check. This is forced. Bishop g6 in normal chess would be checkmate. In this variant, it just means I take the king on the next turn. Nice. With that, we win game number 2, even though our opponent had the harder drawback. Let's go ahead and pop up the info board. All right, you won. You took your opponent's king. Your opponent's drawback was superstitious. You can't move to a square that your opponent is captured on. Interesting. It's also interesting that that's more difficult than ours. I mean, I'm trying to think in this last game how many squares we actually captured on and how many of them were actually critical later on. I mean, I guess if there was a capture, it could be a critical square, but okay, they're about even. With that, we win game number 2. Let's go to move on to game number 3. All right, game number 3, we get the white pieces again. This is our lucky day. Our drawback is jumpy. When possible, you must move a piece that is being attacked. Okay. I mean, I guess for like pawn to pawn, it just means that we can't keep any tension in the center. But for pieces, like for example, bishop d6 attacks my bishop, but that means I can move my bishop back. Although I guess then I would be in an infinite loop, right? If my opponent just keeps the bishop here, I have to constantly keep moving my bishop, either move it off the diagonal or actually trade it. So this should be a game with not too much tension. Okay, but besides that, I think we'll be all right. Let's see if we can give an effort at guessing what our opponent's drawback is. We only have 2 moves on the board right now, so not a lot to work with, but we get e6, sure. Seems like a normal opening. f6 is probably the first weird move. Maybe our opponent's drawback is like getting the king out really early. Let's play, I mean, I don't see a reason to play weird chess so early. Let's play bishop to b5. I want to stop the idea of e5 by pinning the knight and just put a little bit of pressure on my opponent in general. e5, and when possible, you must move a piece that's being attacked. I mean, that's not an issue, like I said. My pawn's getting attacked, but I want to take anyways. Okay, this is the piece that's being attacked, so I actually can't recapture with the knight. Again, not really an issue because this pawn was free since we pinned the other knight. Bishop d7. Oh, okay. And my bishop is still attacked, so even though my opponent broke the pin, I still have to move the bishop. So bishop g3, although honestly that is a pretty darn natural move. I mean, if you see an open center and there's a knight threatening your bishop, you probably want to move it out of the way. Okay, knight to b4, we'll go ahead and trade. And I guess since this knight attacks these 2 pawns, I have to move them, so let's move c3 to boot the knight. I assume the knight will go back to c6, and then we should be free to move basically whatever we want. And I'll probably castle before that becomes an issue. Ooh, knight to a6, okay. Very interesting choice. Maybe trying to reroute the knight to e4, which is arguably a pretty strong square for our opponent's knight. Ooh, queen to b5. Again, this is kind of a natural move. We're playing b4 because it's being attacked. It's definitely not the way that I would actually defend it in a real game. I'd probably play like queen c2, maybe queen c1, but I might even play e4 to be honest. But we get, ooh, knight takes b4. I can't take because this pawn isn't actually attacked. Only these 2 pieces are attacked. Okay, we'll try to finesse this by playing a4, attacking the queen. If the queen moves back somewhere completely out of the way, then I can finally recapture the knight. Oh wait, no, because the queen would be seeing the pawn. Ooh. Okay, interesting. Maybe like queen b6, but that sees this. Then e4, try to open up the king. I mean, the more piece activity my opponent gets, the more difficult this becomes. I'm also very curious why my opponent captured. Okay, we get queen to c4, which unfortunately attacks the pawn, which means, luckily for me, I can actually take back the knight. Queen to c3, man, that is a pretty spot-on move, but because it doesn't actually hit the knight, I can't actually take the queen. Okay, let's play rook to a3. My opponent sees the rook, so I see the queen. So now I definitely can take it, sweet. And I'm going to think that our opponent has a pretty terrible drawback to be losing pieces like this. Okay, cool. Apparently we win game number 3. Let's go ahead and pop up the info board. Your opponent lost due to their drawback. Your opponent's drawback was Crusade. For 4 consecutive moves, starting on move 14, you must end your turn occupying c3. Wow. And my drawback was apparently super hard, but I felt pretty comfortable with my drawback, and especially compared to my opponent's drawback, I would say mine is easier because c3 is just so far into enemy territory, especially in specific openings like the London, where c3 is part of a pawn chain. Pretty difficult for 4 consecutive moves to occupy that square, especially so deep into the game past move 14. Let's go ahead and move on to game number 4. All right, game number 4, we get the black pieces and a humongous drawback, which is fixation, which is definitely a new one. We haven't seen this one before. Once you move a particular pawn, you cannot move a different pawn until you move a non-pawn piece. Once you move a particular non-pawn piece, You cannot move a different non-pawn piece until you move a pawn. Wow, that is not great. Okay, so it means that we have to alternate between moving pieces and pawns, I guess. Right, so now I have to move one of my minor pieces. You'll see it won't actually let me move any of the pawns because I've just moved a pawn. So let's play knight to f6, which now, I guess, right in line with the name of the drawback, fixates my knight, which means I can't move any of my big pieces, I guess you could call them, and now I have to move another pawn. So let's play c6. I'm going to play this nice and solid to keep pawns and pieces on the board. Okay, we move another piece. Let's play bishop g4. And with any luck, if we just kind of keep a solid position and all of our pieces on the board, I think we'll be okay. We also want to play this as naturally as possible, so you'll see that our opponent took, and I'm not allowed to move pawns. I had to move a piece, so I just captured back quickly, so our opponent doesn't suspect that this is anything outside of our normal opening repertoire. Okay, we'll go ahead and play knight c6. I mean, this is still defended, so as long as I play quickly and smoothly, I don't think I should give my opponent any reason to suspect anything. So e6. Next, I'll move a piece. Next, I'll probably make a waiting move with a pawn, and then next I'll castle. Okay, knight takes means I can just take back. That was either our opponent trying to take back of a suspected drawback, or our opponent having to play based off of their own drawback. Bishop d2, let's move a pawn. Oh, wait a minute. Now if my opponent takes, I have to move my king. Ooh. Okay, knight d7, I guess, is fine for now. It's really not great, but man, that was kind of a lazy choice. Okay, bishop takes. I have to move a pawn now, so h6. Man, really flubbed it with that a6 move. The whole point was that we had to kind of subvert our opponent's expectations, but now we can castle at least. If our opponent takes the rook, it is gone. I have to move a pawn anyways. But our opponent's thinking there's something wrong with this position, that our opponent is not taking this rook, because this is like a complete no-brainer move. Queen to f5. Okay. Let's play a5. And again, our opponent's thinking there's a reason that they're not capturing this. And I wish I could figure out what it was, but I have no idea. Okay, our opponent captures the pawn instead. We'll take with the rook to pin the bishop. We're now winning back material for who knows what reason. The only issue I see here is that I have to start moving pawns at some point. Okay, rook to c1. Okay, g6 just hangs the pawn to the queen, so h5, I guess I just have to hang this pawn. Rook to c5 ignores the pawn. Let's go ahead and capture the rook with the bishop. Again, we're magically gaining back material, but I really have no idea why. Let's play h4. We'll push this guy as far as he can go, and at some point, these pawns have to make way, but that's going to be really hard with the bishop staring at my king and other pawns in front of my pawns. We get bishop to e4, threatening queen to h7, which would capture the king. Let's play knight to f6, defending h7. Maybe g6 was a little more concrete, but that saves us a pawn move for later. Oh, and actually queen to h7 would be winning, because after that I have to move a pawn. So like g6, and then I lose the king. But we get pawn to g3. Now we have to move a pawn. I don't really want to take, so I'm going to play g6 instead, targeting the queen. And if our opponent moves the queen away, then we can be pretty confident that our opponent doesn't know what our drawback is. Sweet, we win the queen for free. Now we only have 2 pawns left to work with, which is definitely not where we want to be. There's only one legal move in the whole board, so we'll play that. Okay, rook to g1 doesn't actually take the pawn. Let's take on c5, and I really need to get at the king as soon as possible. Oh wait, no, I can still move my rook. Holy smokes, okay. And I can move my queen, actually. Oh wait. Oh, wow, this happens every single video. Okay, so actually I can still move the highlighted piece. So I'm gonna play rook to c1 check. Wow, I've been making this drawback way more difficult than it needed to be. So it actually says you can not move a different pawn or a different piece, right? So actually, I've been able to move the highlighted piece as much as I feel like. So I guess I really have no choice but to keep moving the rook around, do I? If I take, my opponent will take my queen, and then I have to move my pawn or keep moving the rook. I guess that's not too bad. I can just play the rest of the game with this rook and probably be okay. Come hunt down this pawn and then free my other pieces with this pawn move. So we'll play rook here. I guess that doesn't actually help my situation. Okay, king to d2. We'll play rook here, target the pawn. I mean, I need to make my way to f6 at some point. Okay, king back. And we won! Okay, sweet! This is so random sometimes. Anyways, with that, we win game number 4. Let's go ahead and pop up the info board. Okay, apparently we won. Your opponent lost due to their drawback. Your opponent's drawback was bloodthirsty. After the first 3 turns, if you go 2 turns without capturing, you must capture on the 3rd or lose. Yep. That explains why our opponent was just dropping material just free throughout the whole entire game. Because they had to. every 3 turns, basically. So even though we did have the harder drawback and we misunderstood it, with that, we win game number 4. Let's go ahead and move on to game number 5. All right, game number 5, we get the white pieces. Let's start with d4. And our drawback is Rook Fan Club. You must promote to rooks. Your king and queen cannot move diagonally. Okay, so basically this is a rook, and basically this moves like, like a wazir, or what I like to call a bob in one of my other chess variants. But we get pawn to c5. Let's go ahead and just take. e6, I'll just develop normally. There's no need to be suspicious this early in the game. Knight to f6, knight to f3, we'll just play bishop g5, e3, bishop d3, and we should be in a good spot. My king can't move diagonally, but that should still mean that I'm fine to castle, since that's a horizontal movement. Bishop b4 just means e3. Castles, we'll play bishop d3. We're almost done with development, minus castling. Bishop takes, we'll go ahead and take back. Queen to a5, I'm gonna actually ignore, maybe I should take here first. Yeah, I'm gonna take here first. When our opponent takes back, it opens up the king, and then I'll castle out of the way, drop the c3 pawn, and maybe somehow mount an attack on the king side. Ooh, knight to c6 is a really good sign. Okay, bishop back to h4. No, bishop, where do I put the bishop? Bishop d4, no. Because I'm thinking bishop to h4, queen takes with check, knight to d2, rook is still protected. Maybe that's okay. Let's play bishop to h4. Okay, queen does in fact take. We'll play knight d2, and we really need to get this castle in before we get in any more trouble, but we do have an extra piece. Knight to e5. This loses a pawn. I really couldn't care less. Let's just go ahead and castle out of the way. I'll even pre-move the recapture. Sure, that's totally fine. And let's play knight to f3. If our opponent takes, we take back with the rook, and that way we have the queens off the board, because the biggest issue here is that there's now a huge discrepancy between our opponent's queen and our queen. So if our opponent ever mounts an attack with their queen, it works as normal. If we ever mount an attack with our queen, we're basically working with an extra rook. So if we can trade this, unknowingly our opponent will be losing material. Let's play queen to b1. I need to do this as inconspicuously as possible, because queen b3 is definitely the more natural move there, maybe even like queen d6, blocking in the bishop. But I really want to try to force this trade. Okay, queen to h5, we'll play the bishop back. We'll give our opponent a breather before we attempt it again with like queen to b5, for example. So we'll play a4. We don't want to seem too desperate though, or else our opponent is going to start picking up on what we're putting down. Let's play knight to e5, target the pawn. Pawn to d6 seems to allow knight c4, which just threatens a free pawn. Doubly with both of these minor pieces. So there's really no choice but d5 to defend it, which then blocks in the bishop. Okay, we do get d5. We'll just play the knight back. Okay, f6. The problem with the center getting closed up is that now my queen really has no way to see the other queen. So let's try knight to d3, maybe knight to f4, targets the pawn, targets the queen. e5, let's try to get a queen trade in again. Okay, queen to g6. Obviously our opponent can't possibly know that we can only move horizontally, otherwise they probably wouldn't have moved the queen out of the way. So let's play rook to c1, looking for rook c7. Bishop to a6 pins the knight, so we'll just slide the rook out of the way. If e4, knight to f4 should be totally fine. If anything, we're hitting a backwards pawn that has nowhere to go to. Oh wait, I've just dropped oh my goodness, okay. I've just dropped my extra piece. So we did get the queen trade, but I've just hung a piece for no reason. Holy smokes. Okay, so this is getting closer to normal chess because we've lost the queen, but now our king can only move horizontally and vertically. Or like one of you guys commented, our king can only move orthogonally, since you guys noticed that that is now in my vocabulary ever since, what was it, the last drawback episode? We get bishop to a6. Let us play, f3 is a waste of time because I can't even bring my king out that way. So, what to do? Let's play f4. Let's just try to cause some problems in the position. I still haven't even come close to discovering what my opponent's drawback could possibly be. Okay, we do get that capture. We'll take back. That should be in our favor and may have been part of our opponent's drawback. Okay, pawn takes. Let's go ahead and take with the bishop. That way this pawn stays here, stopping this pawn from advancing, and we activate our bishop as well. We're also significantly up on time. We get bishop c4. Let's try e4. It destabilizes the bishop, and then we can go ahead and trade off these two pawns. They're both weaknesses for both of us, so it's not really better for me or for my opponent, but we'll go ahead and get them off the board anyways. Nice, I'll take a tempo to move g3. That way all of my pawns minus the a4 pawn are on dark squares, and I can just carelessly start moving my king towards the center. b5. Let's go with a5. I want to kind of keep this pawn on the board, so maybe there's a chance that I can promote at some point, but we do get b4. Okay, we're really going to have no choice but to play this defensively. Let's try this, rook to d7. Okay, bishop a2 gets the bishop out of the way, but now we can hit the pawn from behind. So b3 defends the pawn, but then there's no way to make more forward progress. So let's start bringing the king over, king to f1. Opponent's down to 25 seconds as well, although we do get 2 seconds back for every move, so it's really not so bad. Okay, rook comes over, probably looking for c2 to support the pawn in moving forward. Let's play king to e1. I mean, we're probably going to have to drop the pawn on h2, but at least now b2 isn't possible because we can take the rook. Okay, the rook captures. King to c1? I mean, the problem is, if I do it with my king and my opponent calls my bluff and sacks the pawn, I can never take back because my king can't move diagonally. Okay, check means king to d2, and hopefully our opponent doesn't take. Okay, sweet, because we still can't defend it. Position repeated once more and the game will be a draw. Let's play this. I mean, I guess we can force a draw as well, unless our opponent's willing to bring the king out to play. Okay, king goes back. Let's do this. King shuffles over. I mean, no fear from our opponent whatsoever. Let's play here and just be willing to sack the bishop for the pawn. Maybe somehow we can like flag our opponent. Okay, we'll take. Nice, let's threaten the pawn on h7. Rook to b5, willing to give it up, but I'm not willing to give up mine quite yet. Okay, let us bring the king over. I mean, it's going to be a huge issue that this king needs to play defense, but it can't even move diagonally. Okay, let's move the king forward. Hopefully, our opponent doesn't pick up on the extremely obvious situation that we're in. Ooh, oh, I've dropped the pawn on a6. Oh, that was horrendous. Okay, well, I can't really trade rooks, or else that would give up pretty much all fighting chances. Okay, let's move over. Let's just keep the king locked on the 8th rank as best we can. Our opponent theoretically could free him whenever with like a little rook drop back. Okay, g4 check. I move forward, target f5. Ooh, drops the bishop. Nice. Does free the king. Okay, we'll play check. King moves forward again. Let's play here and target the pawn. h4 drops a pawn. Still no idea what my opponent's drawback is. King to h5 looks to take. Let's play this. If my opponent takes, this should just be winning. Okay, king comes back. Rook. I'm trying to think if there's a way I can force this, but I'm not really seeing it. Okay, king to h5 will do the same thing, but rook back this time. Okay, rook to f7. I guess we just make a waiting move. King goes back. What about rook to h2 looking for h5? Is that worth anything? Okay, rook to h7. And I can't even move my king back. Actually, my king is completely stuck. Check and it's all over. Okay, let's play this. Okay, we'll play check and take here. Sure. Check again. King forward, looking for mate. Okay, king over. All right, pawn goes down, which is definitely promoting. So let's go ahead and try to make a problem for our opponent, but it seems unlikely. Okay, we'll move here. Tricky little move, looking to win by skewer. Okay, rook to g4 unfortunately defends that. We'll play check anyways. Give it an honest effort. Okay, check again. And it seems our opponent has no issue with moving diagonally, so they should just be able to crawl over to g3. Let's play check again. King comes forward. All right, let's just try to survive. I mean, there's not much else for us to do. And there's nowhere safe for our king to go, so we have to walk into mate. Oh, our opponent doesn't take? I keep walking? And we lost. Okay, our opponent took our king. With that, we lose game number 5. Let's go ahead and check out what their drawback was. Your opponent's drawback was reconnaissance. You start being unable to capture. Every turn, you study all the pieces you would be able to capture normally. Once you've studied them for a turn, you can capture that piece type for the rest of the game. Wow. And apparently our drawback was particularly easy, and we still managed to lose the game. Anyways, let's go to move on to game number 6. All right, game number 6, we get the black pieces. Our drawback is bridge over troubled water. There is a river in the middle of the board. You can't land on it, and you can only pass over it via the bridge in the center 2 files. Wow. That is horrendous. Okay, let's try for d5, I guess. Now we definitely have to fight for the center. I mean, it's our only hope at this point. I wonder if that includes bishops. So like, oh wow, it really does. I can't even move in that general direction. Okay, knight to c6. I mean, our opponent unknowingly has an incredible fortress. So we're gonna have to just try to play normally as if there weren't any issues and just pretend like we are very passive players as black. e6. I mean, our opponent has no reason to think that we're playing abnormally. Okay, bishop d6. Again, these are still normal moves, even though they set up things that are impossible and don't really lead to anything consequential, like a6, for example. I couldn't take that if I wanted to, but my opponent doesn't know that, so my opponent's gonna either take or move the bishop back. Sweet. Take back with the bishop, threatening the queen. Couldn't take her if I wanted to, but the queen is still gonna move out of the way. So things like that. Let's play queen to e7. For some reason, I don't want my opponent to start an attack when I barely have any space to defend myself. It's almost as if I were trying to win. But I'll keep both castling options on the board for now. Okay, pawn to b3. I'm assuming I want an endgame. If I can get into an endgame, it'll be easier to decide what part of the board I actually push on. So I'm going to play knight to d7 again, hitting the queen. Okay, queen shuffles over. And the problem is, in a normal game, I would just castle. Queen takes, I would bring my rook over, and I'd be staring right at the king. Both bishops would be lined up. We'd have a semi-open file. Knight to e5, we take. I mean, it would be a whole fest on the king's side. But right now, all I can think about is defending this pawn. So I'm going to play f6. Maybe e5 is valuable since it starts taking up more center space. But what I really need is a queen trade, and I need it ASAP. Okay, bishop e2, we'll play knight to e5, try to get a trade of knights, and then maybe of bishops on that long diagonal. Okay, knight takes, we'll take back. If d4, then we kind of achieve our end anyways and just close up this diagonal altogether, but we get rook to c1 instead. Okay, now it's definitely time to castle because there aren't that many pieces. It's really just the queen hanging out over here. And it seems the battle is coming to the center where we want it anyways. So, rook to d8. I mean, this bishop lives here now. I have no reason to open up this file when I can't even play across it. We get pawn to h5. Let's play d4. Pawn takes, I'll take back with the rook. Again, threatening a queen that I can't take. I think I can't take. Can I move laterally into the river? No, I can't. Okay, I actually have to cross. Like, these are completely off limits for me. That's absolutely insane. Let's go ahead and double our rooks. Finally, we're playing on the part of the board that we actually have some control over. And this attack is pretty much evaporated. I mean, it's just a pawn now pushing into the king's side, which, with all due respect, I don't think that's going to make it very far. We get rook to d1, defending the pawn. Let's move our bishop back. I mean, it's so well placed in the center, though. Okay, let's play rook to d3. I want to keep this trade on the table, and I want to keep my opponent as restricted as possible. Obviously, this pawn can't move anywhere, so our opponent's position is kind of stuck. Nice, we do get that trade. Our opponent's very strong dark squared bishop traded off for our, not river jumping bishop. We get knight takes, which does boot the rook. Let's play rook to d4. Still trying to restrict the pawn as much as I reasonably can. We'll probably play e5 in a second. Ooh, rook sack. Don't mind if I do. Wonder if that was part of our opponent's drawback, or if it was a artistic decision. Okay, queen takes. Seems to leave this hanging. If my opponent takes, I take back. If check, I move the king forward. I mean, I don't see the issue with taking that pawn, so I'm going to take it. I mean, I guess we drop c6. We'll go ahead and take back, but we're hitting the knight, so that should be an issue for our opponent. Okay, we'll play check. Now, I wonder, if I play queen to c7, will my opponent see that that's not check? I'm not really willing to find out, so I'm just going to play queen to d7. I mean, we're defending our pawn. We've doubled up on the open file. You can only ask so much of the game. Let's play king to f7. Okay, nice a4. We're going to play this as if we were trying to catch the pawn, but I think what we really want is like queen d1 and then maybe queen over. Issue is it leaves my king all alone with this scary queen on the back rank, or rather the 7th rank. So maybe g6 first. g6, we trade, we get the king up. We'll be doing okay. Okay, knight targets the pawn. Let's play g6. Okay, we'll take with the king. If check, queen g7 is almost forced. I guess king to h6 is on the table, but man, it doesn't look great. Okay, knight takes. That's promising. I'm so tempted to see if I can just bluff this check. Let's try it. Okay, we can. Okay, our opponent sees that they're in check, so they're probably going to move the king out of the way, even though I'm not actually hitting it. Okay, nice. Pawn to g3. This is good. This is progress. Okay, down to 30 seconds. Man, I need to pick up the pace. Problem is I don't like any of my moves. Let's just play this, target the pawn. Okay, check just means I shuffle out of the way. And it's pretty funny because this would actually be checkmate. Because I can't touch that square. But my opponent doesn't know that, I don't think. So we should be fine. We're now hitting the knight and hitting the pawn. Both equally terrifying. You lose the knight. I mean, maybe you can get like threefold repetition somehow. You lose the pawn. You open up the king's whole position. So we'll see what our opponent prefers. We get queen to g4, dropping the knight. If I take, check, king back, check, king over, check, king walks. Eventually, I have to make it back to my queen, so I think I'm fine. Again, queen g5 is still mate, but there's no way for my opponent to know that. Sure, I'll move back and defend my pawn. I mean, and these are all natural king moves. Running away from the queen, defending the pawn. I mean, there's not much to call home about from these moves. I'll keep walking. Sure, I'll play here. Queen d3, maybe queen here. I don't want to get mated accidentally. Let's play king c7. If check again, queen d7, and there's no more checks. Wait. Oh, I was going to say, was this always on the table? Like rook a1 and then taking? But I don't think it was. Because I just brought my queen here. Oh, I'm down to 10 seconds. I need to speed up. Okay, I walk. Let's continue to walk down. Sure. Oh, what have I done? Okay, queen back, I guess. Oh, nice. Oh, wait, that doesn't work. Ooh, not nice. Oh, what do I play? Here, get my rook out of danger, try to take the pawn. I'm down to 5 seconds, which is not great. I've been in better positions. If you'll believe it, I have been in better positions. We'll move the king out of the way. The good thing is I don't see how I could possibly lose the rook yet, but this bridge is going to be a huge issue in just a moment. Okay, let's keep walking the king. Nice, and I think we've finessed the victory now. Nice, we get queen to h7, which forces a queen trade. Oh, I can't take it! Oh, okay, let's take this. I can't even take that, actually. Sweet. I can't stop this pawn if my opponent moves it. Holy smokes, okay. Our opponent, this is why you should never resign. Our opponent pretty clearly allowed themselves to time out, but let's go ahead and pop up the info board. Okay, I was saying our opponent pretty much timed themselves out for no reason because they could have played a7 and I couldn't have captured that pawn anyways. But with that, we win our 5th game. Our opponent's drawback was pawn battle. Lose if you have fewer pawns than your opponent. Yeah. Oh man, and that probably got in their head too because a7 is just losing another pawn and that's what they've been trying to avoid the whole entire game. Wow, that is a lucky victory and a good show of why you should really never resign because right there, a7, I couldn't cross over the bridge to take it. Extra queen on the board, butt naked king with the rook on the opposite side of the bridge. Pretty much all over at that point. But we did win all 5 of our games. If you guys did enjoy this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Let me know down below what you guys think of Drawback Chess, if you think we're even close to uncovering all 150, and I will see you guys in the next one.